Good morning. It's cold. I'm gonna put a blanket on. Take a moment here to let the notification go through that I am live. It is Sunday, February 1st. It's beautifully sunny out. It's chilly, but very, very sunny. I hope you're having a beautiful day and it is nicer where you are, or at least, it's broken up a little bit from the winter that has taken over most of North America. So welcome. Okay, let's get started. As always, my name is Julianne Duffy. We meet here every Sunday, 11:11 Eastern, 8:11 Pacific, and we're here to talk about and look at what is coming for the week ahead. So from today, February 1st, till next Sunday, February 8th, when we meet again. So what we're looking at this week, it's very interesting because this past week for me was really this energy. So it'll be interesting to see how this fits everybody. This week is really pressure exposure, stalled system awareness into eternal orientation. So seeing clearly where nothing is moving, that is what's going to happen. So that is the energy of the week. The energy overall is not that things aren't happening. We're being blocked what is being revealed as unsolved yet. So we're just finding that we're running into blockages or just stagnation, right? And none of these are things meaning that we're in the wrong direction. It's just kind of the energy. The energy is really slow. Momentum has not returned yet. So a lot of us have already been feeling that way, where there's a lot of not feeling like you're going forward, right? The momentum is stalled, right? Feedback is maybe not as good as we wanted, right? So depending on your charts, again, you might be getting more feedback than others. So this could be very much more relevant depending on who you are. You might feel like you're forcing progress, and which, if you're doing that, it's going to probably heighten and make you a little bit more frustrated. So this is a week of exposure. So that's what we've got in store for us this week. Confrontation with stagnation, visibility of blocked pathways, and unresponsive systems. So pressure around being seen without results. So that is, I guess that's a core theme, is like pushing out, selling something, putting out some product, content, whatever you're doing, and not necessarily getting the feedback you want from it, right? So that is the energy. So it's not a week to push harder. It's actually just becoming aware of where we might have these limits, or we might be hitting walls in different directions. We had our YouTube University meeting my husband runs. We've been monetized and we're helping other businesses get monetized, right? And one of our students doing great, making some wonderful videos, but she's getting a lot of walls. Now that she's put out content, she's hitting all these walls. And so it's very much seems appropriate. It's not a week for pushing harder. It's realizing where these limits and these walls are happening that we can't necessarily fight through, but we have to start acknowledging exist, right? Start acknowledging that they do exist, and then decide how we're going to deal with these hurdles, right? We're not gonna be able to push through it. We can't break down the walls, but are we gonna maybe build around the wall? Maybe we need to put an entry through the wall. That's the idea. So delays feel personal, but they are systemic. So everyone's kind of feeling the same thing. So if you're just feeling delayed, there's a lot of that energy. Feeling resistance instead of response, right? So interestingly enough, because I was actually just had a little same common ground. So it's interesting because when you start making content, and there's a lot of AI content, right? So you start wanting to use products that are AI, and having, in my personal opinion, having an awareness of how that can affect you and the content you make is important. So if you're going to make videos on YouTube, it is important you have a clear understanding, in my opinion, of how AI needs to be dealt with the YouTube system. So there's a back end where if you're using anything that's AI, you have to click a button, because if you don't, your account can be shut down. It can be shut down. And what has come up, and this has come up now a few times, about using music. Now, my own personal experience, I'm a little annoyed by my experience using music, okay? Because I've had two different scenarios of where I won't use things in my videos and my content that I don't own anymore because of these experiences. So I was making a lot of positive shorts, little emotion. If you've been following me for a while, you've seen these little shorts with positive quotes, and then there'd be some background music that YouTube would suggest. Today, still a year plus later, because some of these I made 2 years ago, some in the last, it's been at least a year I've been doing those videos, right? So I still get notifications that they are no longer monetizable because I can't use this music that was recommended at that time. So my watch hours aren't gone, but these cannot be monetized anymore. Okay, not a big deal. They're little short clips, right? So okay, I'm aware of that, and that was me using YouTube Music. Then I've had a similar situations with Canva owned music where we've owned Canva stuff, and then I have to go back and tell them that no, I own the rights to it, etc. So just knowing that you're either because AI does go through these videos, they pick up. If you're using AI music, AI generated music, you put yourself at risk that those situations can happen. That a big producer, a big company can come back and say, well, that sounds too much like my artist or whatever, and you have a copyright, right? Copyright. So you're not going to necessarily lose your channel or anything like that. But that video, yeah, you'll get still your hours. You'll probably be able to still have it up. But my shorts were taken down. My shorts are unlisted. I have to re-put the shorts up. So depending on what content and stuff, you could have a different outcome to what can happen to it. But you would not be able to get monetization off of that content, because now you have this copyright claim, right? And then you're going to have to deal with that. So I encourage clarity. I encourage clarity that is an understanding. If you're going to make content with that, like if you're going to make you know what, full on, you want to use AI music in your content, go ahead. Be aware though that this could come back and in the future cause a discomfort, an unpleasantness. Now, fair enough, making content is more important than not making content, and that is a true extreme point. We don't want to discourage you. We want you to make content, but under in my personal opinion, under the idea that you know what you're signing up to. So if I know I'm making these videos and I'm risking that they can be taken down, copyright, or just unlisted and the music isn't allowed, okay, I've signed on to that. I didn't learn that till after the fact, right? Those are things I know. So it's interesting, my husband and I having different perspectives. Like we both agree with the fundamentals. Just make it. Don't worry about the outcome. It's too emotional, the outcome of the fact that this could be annoying in the future, where I don't want to be annoyed in the future. I would prefer to know now what I'm really signing up to before I put hours and hours of time into making AI music without necessarily the understanding that that could affect my video monetization in the future. Right? So not that, who's right, who's wrong. I don't know. I look from the perspective, is emotional wrong? I don't think so. It's an interesting perspective, but that's where we're at. We're hitting walls, right? So that's like an example of like walls of understanding how things work in this reality, right? So if you want to make content, everything has been put out as easy. Oh my God. The most annoying Facebook posting is the guy who's like, if you're using AI, how are you not making $5,000 a month off your AI? You know what? This is the thing. Those things aren't real. Real is actual hard work. The people that end up like building is showing up every day, making content every day, whatever you're doing it every day is what builds and pays off, right? So what you're putting your energy into and what you're going to build in the long run isn't always going to necessarily give you feedback. However, knowing the walls and the limitations of what you're building, and if you're building inside someone's system, so with these AIs, you're building, or the AI videos, you're building under the YouTube system. So you're at having to follow what they tell you or their rules, right? If you want to play their game. If you don't, go build your own system. So we have to be just more aware of how these things work. So I look at the emotional. I want to prevent emotional damage in the future. So I want all of the understanding of what I'm signing up to and what could possibly go wrong and what can possibly be good too, right? Like lots of people make good content and are successful with their AI, but they're covering their butt. They know how to play the game and they're aware, right? And then they're also aware that content, especially if they're dicing around with music, could be a factor, right? So that's how we're working, is like this week is not that things aren't happening. Blocks are being revealed. and they're not resolved. So we're just getting that understanding. So those are just examples of how these blocks become revealed. Hello, Cooper. Thank you for joining me. I hope you're having a beautiful Sunday. So pressure revealing week, not a manifestation week. That is where we're at. So let's go forward to the energy specifically for today and tomorrow. So we're going from, so Sunday, Monday, we are numerologies 7 to 8, introspection into structural reality. We also have emotional numerology 7 to 8, which is withdrawal to emotional containment. So the same kind of numerology. And it is the water on the elemental with fire. So we're having emotional processing that goes into pressure, identity, and creative friction. So water is internalizing our experiences through today and tomorrow, and then fire exposes what cannot remain. So that's really the walls, like learning about these barriers. Like this isn't, as I said, it's not a push through week. It is a kind of it's much more of a reflective overall week, right? So create emotional pressure without an outlet. That is what we might find, right? We're seeing things, we're I guess the visualization that comes to me is more the structure, right? We're seeing the problems with the structure and we don't have an outlet. We can't quite fix the structure, but we're becoming aware of the weaknesses with it, right? We also have on the astrology, the Vedic side, sidereal moon. Mental processing gives way to emotional weight. So thought loops collapse into our felt reality. So it's going to be interesting that the mind can no longer outrun what the body knows. Okay. So our body and mind are catching up to match. That's essentially in the sidereal end of that. The Western, we've got emotional containment is building, and then it's seeking expression. But because we want to express, we are meeting that wall, that resistance wall, which doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. It's actually a systemic wall. This is hitting all of us, really different levels, but we're all hitting this wall. So this time with the Western is frustration around being seen without response. So without a clear place to land. It is frustrating. It's frustrating to put a lot of effort in, know you're doing something good, have something to offer, and maybe you were getting response and now you're not. Maybe it's just not the same response you were getting, or maybe you're just fully feeling no response, right? We're getting different variations of that. So that is normal. That's what it's in the energies, right? We can feel like emotional exposure without safety. That's how we might be feeling, right? Like really exposed, we've been putting stuff and there's no safety net. Really, there is no safety net. If we look at it, somebody posted again on Facebook about how everything is down. Everything. Doesn't matter. You look anywhere. Doesn't matter what you invested in. It's all down, right? So that's very appropriate for Sunday, Monday energy. Emotional exposure without safety. There's no safety net. People were saying, well, it's my land. Well, the reality is your land is probably devalued, but you're not going to see that same immediate reaction when everything else devalues because no one at that, like land doesn't have that same immediate drop reaction. Ooh. Am I back? It told me I was reconnecting. Okay, let's continue on that. It didn't want me to talk about today and tomorrow being emotional exposure without safety. So we'll move on with that. So the overall energy kind of combined views of when we're looking at the astrology, the numerology, the elements, water is gathering emotional truth. The fire exposes the identity. The numerology highlights where expression is blocked by structure. It's not by lack of effort. So it's not you being lazy. Like right now, I can see the trend of everybody feeling like they need that next, where is it? Where is it? We're searching for it. There's no, that weird immediacy thing that has been part of our culture for a very long time, the McDonaldizing of everything. Like, you can get this in 30 days. You can lose 100 pounds in 2 weeks. Like these unrealistic things that based on being built and sustainable are really what I think is exposing, right? So if you're feeling like you're not getting that, there's no instant gratification, there's no instant win payout, because that's not something sustainable, because it's not really real. You get a moment of abundance and wow, just like amazing instances where you might get something really easily. But that is not the norm. Things have to be built. And we're at that point where we've got stalled momentum and emotional pressure that has been released. So we're kind of in this weird lull stage. So, how we might see the collective as we go through today, Saturday into Sunday, is a lot of frustration with around especially the lack of progress, the lack of seeing ourselves going forward. Emotional awareness without a solution, without knowing how to solve it, right? Desire to act, but also with a weird resistance. So we want to go forward, but we're feeling like we can't really go forward. So that's what we're feeling on the collective. And sensitivity to being ignored or delayed, like just getting annoyed with that, right? So some examples we might feel in our own body: ready but unable to go forward, right? Clarity but no external traction. So we're like clear what we want to do, but maybe not seeing that payback or that traction behind it. Emotional fatigue without prolonged waiting, and identity pressure without validation. So, how to make it through Sunday, Monday, especially as we go into Monday, right? And get back to the normal Monday, weekday. Start breaking them down, kind of dystopian words. But, anyways, don't force action. It'll backfire. It's not, don't be ready like Monday morning. Whoa, I just want to get this done. It's going to, unfortunately, you're just going to fight yourself. It's going to be a no-win situation in that. Observe where pressure is accumulating. So observe where you're feeling the resistance, and it is better to conserve. So like relax, do what you need, keep it down versus going and having to like push yourself through, like forcing it. The energy is going to change and move unless it's super important. Don't force it, right? And if you can name it without turning inward and like looking bleak, do it, right? Like name it that you're just frustrated because of whatever hurdle you're running into, right? Okay, let's continue. So now let's jump into the 3rd and 4th of February. So Tuesday and Wednesday, we have the numerology, the universal numerology of accumulation into forced reset. And then emotional, we've got emotional containment into emotional ignition. So what those really represent is we're oh, as I lost my notes, what does it really represent? Closure without resolution, pressure to begin again without relief. So we're again, so today, tomorrow, we're hitting that walls, the resistance, we're becoming aware, right? Where it's not a momentum, not a push through, right? And Tuesday, Wednesday, that energy continues, still seeing it. We're emotional or structured, whatever we're hitting, again, those walls in whatever's happening in our own lives, right? And it's not because it's complete, it's because it can't continue in the same way it's been. So whether that is a perspective change, whether that is a whole redo of it, or whether the energy is not supporting it, all of those will really depend on your own charts. So I'm going to stop this brief little promotion to come and be a beta tester for my Awaken Light. Because if you want to know how this specifically affects your life, this is in the app where I'm building an app. It's using the numerology, astrology. I've got huge updates coming in. So if you are already a beta light tester, there's more coming and there's so many more features I want to add, but it is a fantastic tool to use to start planning or at least having an awareness of how your day goes. So very much like the ideas I talked about earlier about I agree by using this AI music or this music I don't technically own, right? Don't own, even if I have the right to use it, I don't own it. I'm agreeing that at any point in the future, that video may be a problem or may not be a problem. I get that, right? So now I'm aware of that. So this is the idea with my app is becoming just aware of the energy of that day. So you can make choices of how you want to go through your day. And it's got monthly, weekly, daily. It is a jam-packed app and I'm excited. I have to make a really good promotional video showing all the features because I do not do it justice, but I'm in the middle of still working on it. Go become a beta tester. Go to my website, Julianne Duffy at breathewithinyoga.com, breathewithinyoga.com, and you can be a beta tester right there. Okay. Anyways, off of that, let's continue. So we've got the closure without resolution, pressure to begin again, right? When we get to the elements for Tuesday, Wednesday, we've got fire, which is pressure, identity, visibility, and will, and air, which is undertone, perceptive, narrative. So what we're getting on that aspect through Tuesday and Wednesday is fire is exposing, air interprets. And sometimes it's harsh. So sometimes we might find this might be why it's going to be such a difficult week. Things that we're interpreting or the blocks we have are things we've been fighting. We've been internally fighting. We don't want to really do. We don't want to put the effort in, or we don't want to make the changes. I feel like that's a lot of what really comes in, especially with the elements, is intensity about being seen without response, but also not really willing to do the things that we need to, or perceive it the way we need to, or do those actions that have been nagging us, right? Like that, because that's part of the air interpreting it very harshly, sometimes harshly. It's the example I used last week of avoiding doing things that at a level you probably really want to do or need to do, but you'll distract yourself doing everything else until you finally cave because you've had so many cycles of avoiding what you need to do, or you know at a level you need to do, but you denying doing, and then you come back and you finally do it and you finally take those steps to do it, right? That is that would be very much how I feel like a lot of people with their businesses, making videos, especially now, having content, being seen is very important. And everyone will acknowledge that, but business owners will put that as their last thing. They won't commit, they won't do what they need. And then they'll be wondering about, because there's always a million different fires to put out. So you can distract yourself, not actually solving problems that you have in your life, right? Or just avoiding them or thinking they'll just change if you avoid them, right? Without actually doing what you need to do or starting to implement the processes to do it. So that is the energy, is not being seen by what we're doing. So the actions we're doing, not feeling like we're reciprocated, but also getting clarity on the actions that aren't necessarily helping and assisting us, right? And it can be harsh. Like you're distracting yourself. You're not investing the time and energy into the correct and enter the correct actions to assist where you really need to go, right? And that there's a level where we know, we just not deny it, right? So with the astrology through Tuesday and Wednesday, Vedic, we've got sidereal moon, which is Cancer to Leo, which is bringing an emotional tension, gives way to questions of authority, dignity, and rightful place. So it's where belonging has been withheld, not earned or lost, but delayed. So it's like maybe it's like like a job, right? Maybe it's just this recognition that has been delayed for a very long time. That could be some of it, or just not feeling like you're being seen, and finally that's all starting to happen, right? You're starting to like, well, you're at least you're acknowledging it, and that energy is going to shift, right? With the Western, we've got topical moon Leo, which is visibility peaks before the conditions are safe for response. So you might be being seen, you might be getting more acknowledgement that had been delayed, but the response is still not going to necessarily be what we're used to. I think that's what I think it's more so what the interpretation is what we're used to expecting as reciprocation to things we did is not necessarily the way we're getting it now, right? So if you had, let's say, okay, let's go with TikTok. TikTok's probably a really good option, a really good example, because a lot of people are really mad about TikTok because they've changed the whole structuring and now people aren't getting paid. And that would be a very good example of how it's the authority giving. Okay, so the TikTok is the words, putting these into the words of explaining the ideas in my brain. That's when you know you're human, right? I'm not AI. I'm not. Okay, so where belonging has been withheld, not earned, lost, or delayed, right? So exposure without immediate relief, like where visibility peaks before conditions are safe to respond, expression intensifies, validation lags. So if we think about it in the TikTok, what I was meaning by that is you're probably still being seen, right? But validation isn't there anymore. It's not the same validation. The validation of the money that TikTok would give you has changed. The validation might be you're still getting views, people are still there wanting to hear you. So the validation's changing. That was my point. My point was the validation is changing in our reality. And that is what I think we have to start to adjust. What does it really mean to have that success, right? So is success that I got paid $3,000 for making a TikTok video? If that $3,000 is removed and I don't not motivated to do it, there's then it goes, okay, what does success look like? Like if there is no money that ever existed, right? Like let's say, okay, well, did you only make it for the money? Most people to really commit to making videos have to do at a level where they actually really love it, or it's got to pay off really, really big and been really easy to do. That's the only way most people will make content, right? So if you don't get that payoff, are you still motivated to do it? Right. And that's also, I think, one of the learnings of this time, right? Would you still put the energy into doing this to help others and yourself, even if there's not the normal response, right? Whether it is the money, like TikTok as an example, which I would never experience because I'm from Canada, the great white China North. We don't get paid on TikTok. So you wouldn't know anyways, right? But putting that in perspective, so that is gone, right? So that ending result, that response is no longer the same, but you might be getting those views, right? So now you're changing your perspective of where your response, of where your value is and where your value lies. Because as I mentioned earlier, we're in the process where everything has reduced value. There's not anything that hasn't dropped, right? So now if everything is based on perceived value of every investment that exists and all those investments have now dropped, that's not real then, right? Where you still have value, you still exist. And if all your value is based on the response of money or items or the value of items, you need to change your center of how you perceive yourself in this reality. We have to recenter ourselves into what is an actual real perspective then, right? Because when the outputs are not coming, or the responses are not the responses we're used to, so these responses are not the responses that we've ever had before, right? They're quieter, they're maybe not the money, they might not be the likes, they might not be the things we've seen. We have to pivot or review or reflect on what we're actually doing, right? Because this is that time. This is the time that we're still being seen, but the way the world response is changing. We're in that time. So as we go through the combined view of how, with the numerology charts, as we go through Tuesday, Wednesday this week, fire dominates the field, pressure rises, identity is tested, but action is still premature. So this period reveals what cannot continue as is. So it is like, again, those blocks that I was talking about, we've got the walls coming up everywhere. So what can't continue, not what has to be replaced, right? So it might not be able to, we can't continue with full walls. So we have to make a hole, or maybe we have to go and make a path around it. Or maybe we're going to make a ladder and climb over the wall, right? So it's, the idea is like with the TikTok as a perfect example of it is it's the response is not the same. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing it, right? Like if you have something good and important to say, then maybe we have to change the response. But if you were giving something that was really useless and mind garbage, maybe then that's also a good response and a good learning. Because I think we're done. We're done with these being promised, overhyped things that deliver nothing related to their hype, right? Like, that instant gratification is not sustainable. And I'm sure that's part of our mental health crisis is we're looking for instant gratification, and that's not really real, right? You can make yourself feel better through doing acts, exercising, moving. Really, you can also make yourself feel better by the habits that you numb yourself out on, right? So you can do those, but it is now the point of going, those we can't continue. Those don't help us. What are we letting go of? Not replacing them. So if it's a habit that has been the thing that comes up that we realize we can't continue with, it's not to replace it with a new habit. It's healing and closing that door. So visibility without traction as we go through Tuesday and Wednesday, expression without response, and truth without permission to move. So you have to be your own truth. This is a lot of us stepping into our own personal power is what that energy is. It's about, especially if we're not getting the response from outside of us, we have to also be. So not only change what we see as a response back, be our own response, right? It is the being the person, being your own guide. You're the one you're waiting for. You are the soul that is here to assist you in evolving. You are the energy, the entity, the being you've been waiting for. And that is part of this learning. We're going through this, that it's not outside you. It never has been. You have been empowered your entire life. So as we go through Tuesday and Wednesday, as we come through, we're going to see, we might imagine on the collective, there's frustration about being ignored. We're going to see more people posting like, are you getting less of this or less of that, right? Emotional reactions to the stalled outcomes, right? That things aren't happening as quickly as you want them to happen, right? We are in a stalled time. As like I said, it's systemic. So it's not just you, it's systemic. We're all here. Different variations. Go check it out. My feedback is I keep losing that connection. So I was talking about, we're Tuesday, Wednesday, how we're going to see the collective. So it was like identity pressure without acknowledgement, right? So people not even sure how they identify. And you can kind of see that by the breakdown of people identifying with any groups. It doesn't matter what group. Does not matter, but it's breaking down. Whether you're identifying for or against the identity where you stand, not being acknowledged. So we're all breaking down our identity, and I keep getting free. So I'm going to stop talking about our identity being not acknowledged because it doesn't want to be acknowledged on the internet. Anyways, the last thing we might see Tuesday, Wednesday on the collective is a desire to be seen with resistance as well, which is weird, right? Kind of seems like a contradiction. In your own life, feelings might be emotionally raw and exposed. You might have the urge to declare a truth without knowing the impact, right? So you might be like ready to be like, this is the truth. And you don't know how that's going to, you don't and haven't really thought about how that's going to impact other people or even your own self, right? So keep that in mind. Exhaustion because of unrecognized weight. So things that we've been carrying. Probably been carrying for since easily 2020, if not before, depending on how damaged you are. But we've definitely been carrying an exhaustion, a weight. We're tired. We have been tired. These 2020s, I will be happy to be long gone the 2020s. I look forward to getting old to be out of the 2020s. And I'm sure I'm not the only person. Like, let's move on. Let's continue. So we're exhausted from unrecognized weight, which I attribute to existing in this reality right now. But it could be anything. And then also in your own life, awareness, things have to change. We are being forced into change, whether that is a perspective or physical change. We are aware something's going to have to give, right? So to make it through the beginning of the week, the Tuesday, Wednesday, avoid demanding outcomes. It's not going to help you. It's just going to stress you out. That's what it's going to do. Avoid burning bridges under emotional pressure. So don't, not necessarily a good day to just walk away after an argument and be like, I'm never talking to you again and close that door. Avoid that. Let clarity surface without forcing action. So even though you want action, just kind of sit back and be the receptor to hear and see the things come in. And protect your energy during moments of visibility. So when you are seen or people are acknowledging you, maybe like the TikTok example, you're getting your views. Protect your energy, right? Like just be aware of those energy vampires, because we're more at risk because we are exhausted. We've been carrying extra weight. We are more at risk of becoming food for the vampires, for the energetic vampires, right? So it is about protecting our own energetic state. Perfect. So we'll continue. The rest we've done to Wednesday. Brief little break. I want to promote and let everybody know I do have a February PDF. It's in the comments in the chat as well in the description. It is a 6-page PDF. It goes a summary of the month of February, dates to look forward to, things to kind of be aware of, some focuses and ways to assist you as you go through the month. So if you're interested, it's Stabilize the Shift because that's what we're in. And it's $5. Easy, download it. You have it forever. If you're a beta tester or you want to be a beta tester, you can go sign in for a free account, download it, and you will have access to it forever on the app as well. So there was my little promote. And please do subscribe so you can stay up to date when I go live, and which are not necessarily giving us back our response of what we would like, because the algorithms are not human. They're AI. And then we have to appease those algorithm AIs to allowing our content to be seen. So we have a whole, it's fun. It's fun reality, right? We can't fight the hurdles. We notice these walls and we decide how we're going to take them, right? So as we come through, let's continue the rest of the week. February 5th and 6th, so that's Thursday and Friday. Our numerology in the universal numerology is 8 to 9, which is pressure to completion. So what intended earlier this week, so what's happening like within, till Wednesday, right? So earlier this week, now demands closure, reckoning, or release. So when we get to Thursday, Friday, it's time to move on, let it go. Not through action or through acceptance. It's not a victory energy. It's not, because again, this is not a push through week. It's not victory. It's I can't continue like this. It is this is that closing that energy that has to be released so it doesn't come back, which is the win. That is the victory, but it's not the victory in how we would normally be like, yeah, number one, got my word, running down, showing it off. No, the victory is that we have closed that door to the energy we can't continue with. We've got emotional energies or numerology 1 to 2. Excuse me, I'm just got a little drink here. Which comes from raw self-focus into emotional sensitivity, which makes sense, right? Because we're really turning inward, we're reflecting, we're looking at what can't continue. And then it is sensitive, right? Because we might have that tendency, especially since mental health is such a big thing. We might have that tendency to be hard on ourselves about whatever we reflect or acknowledge or come to terms with. And excuse me, this is when I feel like the energies don't want me talking and telling you anymore because I've lost my voice for some apparent reason. So the idea is do be aware. If you are a sensitive person and you're going to start blaming yourself for the restrictions, like I'm not good, I suck, I'm crappy at whatever this is that you're not getting your normal response from, you're going to have to be fully aware and tone it down. It is, you're going to feel that emotional sensitivity if you're in that alignment. So you're going to have to tone it down and do the work to remember it's not you. Attempt to not take it personally. It's blocks that exist to a situation, but be aware, especially if you're super sensitive, that this could come up, and that self-focus, to that emotional sensitivity, be aware. It's not a time to blame yourself. It's not a time to say you suck or you don't deserve to live or whatever bad ideas might come up from that emotional sensitivity and who you are that could come up. So being aware of it gives you the key that you can choose what you want to do with that, right? So we're going to see after the emotional ignition, nervous systems seek buffering, reassurance, and equilibrium. So we're looking for balance, right? There's been a lot going on. We want balance. We again might feel tender. It's not dramatic, but we are aware what hurts and what empowers, right? So that's again, especially if we're feeling really, the word sulky. I haven't even used that word in forever. The word sulky is how I feel like that energy is. So if you're feeling that, it's, not dramatic. You might feel that energy. Be aware of it. Let it go, right? As we continue the elements for Thursday, Friday, we've got fire, will, identity, pressure. It was the fire again. Yes, we got fire again. And then it goes into earth, reality, containment, limits, and embodiment. So fire burns the illusion, and then the earth asks what actually held, right? And it's interesting because sometimes fires make things stronger. It's like when you put clay, right? That mud, and then it becomes clay and it's stronger after the fire. And that's how we need to kind of visualize that, right? Is the fire's burning the illusions. Anything that's not real is gone. And then the fire is showing what could be held. That ceramic, that bowl, that clay pot held under the fire and became stronger. And that would be the way you want to kind of visualize yourself. You're the clay, you're the jar. You became stronger from the fire. So this marks a shift from emotional intensity to practical reckoning. So it's a very good visual, right? Like being under the fire was all the emotional intensity, right? And then now we're stronger and we can take what we've learned and go forward. With the astrology, the Vedic, the sidereal moon goes from Leo to Virgo. So it's our authority and identity themes going to practicality, discernment, and self-regulation. The collective begins to ask, what is sustainable? What is sustainable? There is no government that's sustainable, right? Like these aren't sustainable. The way we've lived in this instant gratification is not sustainable. These things are like, what is actually sustainable, right? And that is the question that we come into Thursday, Friday. On the western part of astrology, we've got the moon going to Leo to Virgo. So spotlight fades, reality returns, right? Because now we're starting to see it a little bit clearly. Emotional charge drops, and it's replaced by assessment, cleanup, and recalibration. Post-exposure grounding. So what we really look at is intensity subsides. So it's not as intense by the time we get to the end, Thursday, Friday. It is reality steps in, and it's about coming back to the body after the strain, after feeling distraught, getting kind of thrown out, not necessarily solving the problems, but stabling enough that we become functional to see those problems and those solutions arrive, right? So accepting of limits, letting go of expectations that weren't supported, because, unfortunately, there's some things where like we'll see other people do things and be like, we mirror it, we're doing it, and we just can't make it work. And we're like, we're doing everything they did, right? And it wasn't supported. That's not your path. That's the problem. So, right. So letting go of expectations that were never supported. So the reality is like, is it really supported for like most of us to be able to go use AI and make $5,000 a day for us? Is it? I don't know. I don't know. I'm asking that question, right? Because letting go of expectations that were never supported. I don't know if that's supported. I don't know if that's supported. Like, I think of all the scammy things I've ever seen online. Do this, and it's like disappear for 2 weeks and learn all these AI and become the most dangerous person, right? Like, and it's just such a weird thing. Like, if you and everybody else did this, are you really more dangerous? I don't know. And is this also like, is that something that supports your life and what you're supposed to be doing, right? Like, maybe that's somebody else's path. Maybe that's your path. And like literally running after these shiny things, shiny object syndrome is a problem. And I think that's also part of it, is like, if we're looking at it, letting go of expectations that were never supported. That is the shiny object syndrome, or the shiny, oh, if I just eat like this, I'll be a size, whatever your goal size is, right? Like size 6, size 2, whatever it is, right? Or the shiny, oh, if I just had this purse or the Stanley mug, right? Then my life is good and I'm completed. That's not completing, right? So this is the purge we're going through, is what is not sustainable, what is not even real anymore, right? And we're asking that, as I said, like we're asking what's sustainable, what was never really supported to begin with, right? So how we might see the collective Thursday and Friday, we're an emotional hangover after a lot of expression, a lot of heightened emotion, recognition of what is unsustainable, so we can recognize what isn't working probably a lot faster than what is actually working, because there's probably some things that are kind of working but have some things that are broken probably, really, right? Desire to simplify or withdrawal. We're going to be like, by the end of the week, we're just keep it simple. That has been another reoccurring theme. We really want to get back to simplicity. Things are too complicated and they don't need to be, right? And focus on practical, I can speak words, focus on practical containment, right? So just how do we live, contain our emotions, contain our little lives, right? So just practicality in our lives and just making it through, right? In your own life, we might imagine and see a lot of emotional fatigue, and after the visibility or pressure, especially if you are super sensitive. So like I mentioned, if you are having that sensitivity and get really emotional, be aware, right? Be aware, avoid being really hard on yourself and blaming yourself, that type of thing, right? We might also see ourselves pulled towards rest, routine, um, quiet, right? Because it's been tiring. It's the weekend. We just want to relax. We just want to be quiet. Again, another one of those like coziness, I think. Like, get a book, get a blankie, get warm, just relax, watch a movie. Letting go of unrealistic timelines. So that might be it. And that can be a really difficult thing, is letting go of expectations, which might be a lot of ours, having to go through that. And that's difficult. Letting go of unrealistic expectations of like timelines, like, oh, I want to produce this and I want to do this for this date. And you're now looking at it and going, oh, it could be an extra 2 months, 3 months. It's another 2 years from now. Okay, we're good. We're good. You're only expecting another 6 months, but it's going to be 2, right? 2 years. So letting go of unrealistic timelines, letting go of unrealistic things, right? And letting that go. There's a little bit of relief anymore, because while we're letting go of it, we're probably fighting. We don't want to fight, but at the same time, there is a little bit of relief because it gives us more space too. So that's what we're going to kind of feel in ourselves and in our Thursday, Fridays. Now, overall, how to make it through, ground, like I said, food, sleep, rhythm matters. Quiet is not failure. So especially as we go through this week and especially through the end of the week, try to avoid interpreting it as failure, especially if you are putting something out. It's not the week to push something new out per se, right? So if you don't get a lot of feedback or people aren't responding to you, it's not failure, okay? That's the energy, right? It's just systemic. Release expectations formed under the pressure. So again, that timeline, those things, and reorganize without urgency, right? Like letting yourself just reorganize whatever it is, your life, your physical environment, etc. Okay, let's finish up. So when we meet again next week, be Sunday, the 8th, the same time, 11:11 Eastern, 8:11 a.m. Pacific time, and I will look at next week. But in the meantime, if you want to get some guidance on how this month is going to roll out, the link is in the chat as well as in the description. Go and get my Awaken Light February Stabilizing the Shift PDF. Really nice, really easy to read, lots of great information to assist you. And if you want your own, like, more insight and you want to help me build, I'm loving where my app is going. I was struggling so much through, but I'm starting to get some vibe coding. I'm starting to figure out, I'm starting to use my programming background. Just saying. Never thought that I would use my actual Bachelor of Science in Computer Information Systems 20 some years later, because I never actually pursued it. But now I needed to build this app for you guys. So if you want to join me in this really interesting, cool app that is developing, and every day I'm updating it, maybe not pushing the updates, but it is developing and it's coming along. Go as well. The link is in the description. Go to my website and apply to be a beta tester, and you get free access, and there's lots and lots of really great information, especially if you're interested in astrology, numerology, this type of stuff, esoteric, woo-woo, life and energy. This is the app for you. So go and become a beta tester. So on that, let's finish up this week. So as we come through 7th and 8th, so Saturday and Sunday, numerology, we have responsibility into inner evaluation. So obligations, duties, our concerns, like things to get us through our days, are reaching a saturation point. So we're tired of them. So we then turn inward and reassess, like, do we need to do all of those things, right? What has been carried that we need to look at if it's sustainable emotionally and energetically, right? So it's like, if you keep getting triggered by something, can you keep sustaining getting triggered by it? Do you need to change your perspective? Do you need to change a system in your house and how it's laid out so it doesn't happen? That type of idea. The numerology with the emotions is restlessness to containment, 5 to 6, which is aggravation and frustration, seeks resolution. So stabilizing comfort and boundary reinforcement, looks for safety rather than stimulation. And then with the elements, as we come through Saturday and Sunday, we've got earth, which is our structure, limits, the reality we're here with, like the grounded reality. We got water, that goes to water, which is emotional processing, regulation, and cohesion. So earth is holding the system steady. Water is softening the emotional pressure without releasing the momentum. So we're kind of seeing that we're now getting steady on the weekend, and the water is just kind of helping with the emotional pressure we've been dealing with, right? The astrology, the Vedic N, we've got sidereal moon moving through to Taurus. So growth, desire meets containment, pressure to stabilize resources, energy, and emotional needs rather than initiate change. Comfort and stability override ambition. And we've got the Western astrology, topical moon moves through Cancer, which is sensitivity increases. So again, be aware if you're that super sensitive person, you're going to start to lay blame, especially onto yourself, right? So sensitivity increases, focus turns towards safety, protection, internal resistance, and protection and internal resistance. So external validation matters less than internal steadiness. So what's interesting when we look at the astrology, so first off, sustainability is overriding ambition, right? So we want to sustain what we have because everything is dropping in value. So it's almost like a check-in of what we have, what can we sustain, and what can we not hoard, but that's kind of the way, not to come off as like hoarding, but um comfort and stability. What can we maintain? What do we have in our resources that can stabilize us and help us stabilize, right? Because it is stabilized resources, energy, and our which will help our emotional needs, especially if you're getting thrown out because it's there's no stability outside, right? So if that shows up, especially, you're going to be seeking comfort. So it's a really good time to check in. What do you have that can help you at least mentally or physically feel comfortable at that moment, right? And then with external validation mattering less than internal steadiness, that's the whole thing. This is what this whole thing is like going through this. TikTok is just a small example of this happening where we are not getting the same feedback, especially if you were getting paid, right? And you were getting a lot of money from your TikTok videos and it was income, right? So that validation was getting the income. Well, now we're changing that. Whatever was validating us outside is not as important as being steady in who we are. Because we're learning the outside may not always validate us. That is what we're learning. The validation may not always exist outside of us. So we have to be able to fill that emotional gap within ourselves and be steady and sturdy in who we are as spiritual beings. So as we go through the combined view, earth defines our limits. Water regulates emotional responses for those limits. And this period favors emotional containment, consolidation, and rest from effort. So it's just kind of like that step back. Stabilization of emotional load without external resolution. So that is really what's supported is getting emotionally stable, even though we haven't had the external confirmation, solution, ending, resolution, feedback, whatever you want to label that. So making it through next weekend. So we come through Saturday and Sunday to meet again next Sunday. Imagine the collective is reducing tolerance for pressure or demands. Desire to withdraw, rest, and simplify. I would assume that may not be as noisy online, but maybe it'll be noisy, but it's going to be maybe more on not tolerant, like pressure demands, right? Like maybe more of that kind of crises energy, because there's going to be more focus on home security, emotional safety. So if we do see that, it's probably what we're going to see in content being created. And letting go of expectations for immediate response. Like I said, right? Like if you're building something and you put it out, you put your email or something and you're expecting that, or your normal expectation is you get like however many people, you could be depending on who you are and what you're doing, feedback, and that's or it's not the same amount. Instead of 500, it's 10 instead of 3, right? Like, you know what? The idea is letting go of that response. That immediate feedback is not a realistic way of living. Not humans. We're not made to live in an immediate response on everything all the time, right? Like there was things, yeah, you would get immediate responses for always, right? Like you go and drink water, you're no longer dehydrated, right? You're getting that immediate response. However, in reality, if we think about it in like social media and technology and how connected we are, like you put something out there, you want people to immediately like, comment, share within like a couple of minutes. Like watching my daughter make videos and videos that she gets immediate response versus videos that she doesn't get immediate response, right? And then thinking she's done something bad, but sometimes it's only timing, right? And going, it's not, we have to come back to looking at ourselves, not outside ourselves, right? Because that timing in reality and how things worked back in the day when we were like horse and buggies, you put out maybe a flyer, you start telling the local person, all people in town that talk to everybody, the post office, the grocery shop, wherever, you tell them about things, so word of mouth would spread. It was never immediate. It was always had to be this person to this person to this person to spread. Now we live where we expect immediate responses, right? Like you put something out into the interweb world and you're like, okay, where's my response, right? And then when you're not getting it, that can make you mentally more unstable, right? You can, especially if you're very sensitive. So it's letting go of that immediacy expectation that is not a real grounding expectation we should even have, right? And we can even have it in our own thing, like realizing how everybody has different expectations on texting etiquette, right? You text somebody, depending on your expectations, you can have an assortment of people have different expectations on texting. You can have people super chill. That'll be good. You could text them 3 years from now, they won't care. You can have somebody who will be super offended. You didn't text them back within the like 5 minutes or 15 minutes. 15 minutes can be too long, right? So you get those extremes. So it's letting go of these expectations that aren't real, right? Like, are people supposed to be tied to their phone looking for your posting or your text or waiting for your call? Like, we have to get real, right? So that is what we're going to see coming into the energy on Saturday and Sunday. Your own life, pulling back energy from stalled efforts. So just like, okay, maybe I just have to step back. Doesn't mean it's forever, but it might be just like not putting energy into that right now because we are stepping back and looking more for sustainability, stabilizing our resources and all of those things. Be going forward with the efforts right now because we're kind of taking that step back to kind of reassess, hunker down. What do we have with us and what resources do we have, right? Ding. It says I'm reconnecting. I'm almost done. And then it should hopefully stop reconnecting because it doesn't like that I'm near trees or whatever. So the last thing is emotional fatigue surfacing without clear cause. So that we might feel on Saturday, Sunday. So if we feel some emotional fatigue, not really sure why, just let it flow. You don't have to label it. You don't have to buy into it. You can just, sometimes it's okay. You can be just like, I feel grumpy. I'm sad. I just feel this way. I don't have words and I don't know why. Just let me be that way. It's okay. You're allowed to. That is okay. And needing reassurance without explanation. That is also what we're going to be kind of feeling on ourselves. Strong desire for peace over progress, right? We want peace. We want to feel stable. We are looking for stability in this shift that doesn't offer us stability. That is actually the reality. Is we really want peace because we really want stability. So that's why we're looking at where our resources and what we have to kind of build that comfort that isn't there right now. It's just not really a comfortable point, and it's not a stable point. And next Sunday, don't push your out for outcomes. It's like, don't. It's not worth your energy. It's not worth fighting. Don't push. If you want to put something out, do it. Continue with the progress of what you've been working on. Don't stop doing what you've been working on. If you're hitting those walls, you may have to reassess how you're going to get around those walls, but don't stop that, but don't force yourself to break down that wall, right? Protect emotional and energetic boundaries. Be aware of those on the weekend. Reduce obligations where possible. The weekend especially, like don't commit to a whole bunch. You're going to just want to chill. You're just going to want to have a down weekend. And allow rest without justification. You don't need to. It's like, you don't have to justify. If you legitimately have, you just think I'm in a good mood because I'm in a less bad mood. You know what? You're allowed to be that way. You're like, I'm in a less bad mood. And if it seems like a good mood, that's good. I'm glad. But you're allowed to rest without justification. So that's where we're going to see ourselves as we come to next week. So we'll be coming into the second week of February when we get around on the 8th. But let's pull our card for today. And I'm going to pull the wisdom cards by Diana Cooper and Greg Stewart. And what is the message? Like what guidance, what last final message can we take away as we go through this week that maybe with our perspective, maybe with emotions? What do the guides, what do the energies have for us? They've got success. We're going to be success. Success is completely perspective. So you're going to have success. And in some way, you're going to have success. Success and failure are labels, which combined with arrogance and despair. Triumph can be short-lived, whilst disappointment with the gift of non-judgment can actually be a blessing. Wisdom reminds you that all events are opportunities to learn and grow. So enjoy your experience and seek the positive in every situation. Align your vision for wealth, health, and relationships with your ultimate goal. Reach beyond failure, then your life will reveal abundance and success beyond measure or language. I perceive success in all that I do. So it's interesting. I feel like this is completely appropriate because it really is talking about being a label, right? Failure and success is a label. And sometimes a fail leads to a success, right? So especially if you're emotionally sensitive this week, if you're thinking that you're not getting your feedback, you're failing. Success and failures are only labels. You're not failing. You're not. This is systemic. The feedback loop being not the same, being restricted. Everyone's feeling it, like I said, at different levels. And a little bit of a different variation because of your own charts in your own life. But it is systemic. Like we're in this weird kind of like clamp down stage where it's just you're not, the same things that you did are not necessarily getting the same reception or the same feedback that they would, right? So it is that you're going to be successful. A lot of it might be just redefining what success looks like for us, and also keeping that they're just labels, success and failure. And sometimes the failure or the quiet time, because it's not failing right now, it's a quieter time, is the time to help us build and get ourselves. So when the opening comes, we're ready to step in and work with that energy to go forward. So just have that energy assist us going forward, because sometimes the quiet times are the times where you're just building, right? Everything had a quiet time where it was in build mode, right? Where nothing exciting really happened. Maybe progress. It was getting a little exciting because you get moments of progress, but it's more the quiet time, right? So success is coming, but keep the perspective as clear as you can, right? And if you're not getting the same feedback you've been used to, you're not the only one. Everyone's getting things, different areas of life. So it may not be all the same areas of our life, but where what we used to do is not equaling the same result, the same feedback, the same thing. And it's not forever. It's just this temporary thing, and keeping that in mind as we go through the week. So have a beautiful, beautiful week. I will see you again next Friday. Before you leave, do make sure you like, share, and subscribe so you can stay up to date when I come on these lives. And do take a moment and check out the PDF or become one of my beta testers. Those are my call to actions. If you want to help support me, both of those would be great. I need more beta testers, and that's me helping you help support me as well. So it's win-win all the way. So we'll see you next week. Have a great one. Bye.